Hello, can you hear us in Zoom?
Yes, sir.
Hey,
Yes,
Casey,
sir.
say hello to your daughter.
What was that?
Hello, we're saying hello to your daughter. You guys are on the screen. Okay, friends, welcome back. It's already 2:04, so we need to start. I'm glad you made it through this nasty weather. Actually, I think in the morning I received this weather forecast that we're going to have this harsh winter weather with icing or something like that. So I decided to wear my Chicago jacket. This is the jacket that I usually wear when I go to Chicago. But now I think it was an overkill, right? It doesn't look that bad. It's actually quite warm. Well, anyways, I'm glad you've made it. Also, thank you for joining us through Zoom. Today we'll continue our topic of business intelligence, but today we'll deal with some practical hands-on matters with respect to data cleaning. Okay. By the way, before I forget, there was some confusion with the deadline for the business intelligence quiz. We will finish our business intelligence topic on Tuesday of next week, right? So I set the deadline for the business intelligence quiz to be on Wednesday, February 10th. So the quiz is not today. Let us finish that presentation on business intelligence on Tuesday, and then you'll be free to take that quiz, right? So today we're still continuing our business intelligence topic. So let's start again. If you're joining us in Zoom, feel free to interrupt. Feel free to join us using your voice. You don't have to type things in chat, because if you type a question or comment in chat, it might take me like 5 or more minutes to get to it, because I'm not always looking at the chat as I'm lecturing here using PowerPoints or doing something on the screen. So let me show you where I'm coming from with today's topic, which is sourcing data from the web or cleaning data from the web. So let's go back to our business intelligence module, and I'll share my screen right now. So last time we spent the whole class talking about business intelligence, with business intelligence being defined not just in terms of specific tools being used for analyzing data, but as a broad business initiative designed to transform an organization into a data-driven organization that has an advantage in performance over its competitors. So we view business intelligence in that broad managerial sense, right? And we spent a lot of time discussing individual elements of the so-called generic business intelligence architecture. So we talked about sourcing data, we talked about data warehousing. Remember, we talked about 3 approaches to organizing a data warehouse, right? We talked about BOSS approach, we talked about that star scheme model, we also talked about federated approach, where it's a combination of different approaches. We talked about deriving independent data marts from that warehouse. We talked about metadata processes, data quality processes, and we touched a little bit on governance processes, okay? So today we'll zoom in on this component. Actually, in this class, we'll spend quite a bit of time in all of those areas, right? We'll develop applications that touch on all of those areas, maybe with the exception of governance, because we don't have like a way to simulate a governance mechanism within a real organization here in the classroom. So in this class, we'll deal with all of those components almost, maybe with the exception of this one. But today we'll spend time on this component, sourcing data. We said before that an organizational need, an organizational problem, or on the positive side, an opportunity within an organization to pursue a project that improves performance creates a need for a data source, okay? And data for a BI project can come from all kinds of sources. For example, it can come from internal sources, internal databases, internal sensor data, internal documents, maybe internal surveys that you conduct among employees. And it also can come from the outside of the organization, okay? Now, one outside source of data for organizations that is becoming increasingly important and valuable is the web or World Wide Web. This is where nowadays you can get all kinds of data, not only just data, but quality data, because as you probably understand, a lot of individuals, a lot of organizations are increasingly conducting all of their business processes online, right? And that brings us to this whole topic of sourcing data from the web or web scraping. By the way, this is actually one of my research areas. I'm doing research on how to automate data sourcing, data cleaning, and data organization from the web. And also my research deals with legal and ethical matters when it comes to retrieving data from the web, okay? A lot of people think that web is public, and actually it was meant to be like a public data source, but not everything that is on the web is free to use, okay? Even if it's free to use, it still needs to be used in a way that is ethical and legal. I mean, you cannot use those free data sources to harm somebody's privacy or to remove some sort of competitive advantage from an organization by doing some degree of spying, you know, digging something out that they don't want the public to know, right? So this is what my research deals with. And going back to our business intelligence module right here, I post those optional resources. By the way, one person, actually, I was very delighted. One person said that he or she loves my optional resources, right? I thought that most people don't pay attention to them, but that person told me that, you know, he or she is actually reading it and they enjoy it. So by optional resources, I mean something that you're not required to go over. But if you like a particular topic, if you want to watch like a video related to that topic or read something about the topic, you're welcome to do so. So here, I posted my paper draft on web scraping. One second. So it says optional, my paper on web scraping. You know, it's not a paper, it's really like more of a summary of my entire research program. So I have like maybe 4 or 5 separate papers in the publication process derived from that overall paper, right? But if you want to read about web scraping, what it's all about, you know, you're welcome to do so. And actually, the main reason I'm bringing that up because I'm looking to collaborate on research with other people, including students. This semester, I'm hoping to conduct a research where, let me just explain briefly. You know, there are those rules, ethical rules for robotics. Like, for example, Isaac Asimov, who was a famous futurist writer, he came up with certain rules for robots. Now, at that time, they were talking about those robots, those like cyborg-like machines that move around and do things in the physical space, right? The robots that I'm interested in are web robots, all those agents that do something independently on the internet. Specifically, I'm dealing with web crawling agents, you know, those crawlers that crawl the web and get the data that they need, such as, let's say, Google crawler, okay? So what I'm doing, I'm developing ethical rules for those web crawling robots. So I will need some volunteers, and I will also announce it in ATP to help me with this research project. So basically, if you're interested in participating, I'll give you a list of web scraping tools or robots, and you will evaluate to what extent they comply with those ethical rules, just like I put a check mark. For example, they pay attention to robots.txt file. Robot.txt file, in case if you don't know, it's that file that webmasters use to give instructions to robots, to those web crawlers. For example, they will say something like, don't crawl this folder. You know, this folder is for members only, something like that, right? Anyways, it's not required, but if you're interested in the topic, then read this paper and let me know if you would like to do something further in terms of research or something like that. So that's what I mean by all those optional resources. So, but the reason I'm here is that I want to show you a brief presentation related to that paper on web scraping, because that's what we're doing in assignment 2. We're doing web scraping. So this is my web scraping framework. This is my main theoretical contribution. I'm organizing all those steps and knowledge areas in order to explain to people what it takes to source data from the web in an efficient manner, meaning with the least amount of time and resources spent, and also in a way that is legal, ethical, and corresponds to your research question, meaning the kind of project, the kind of analytics project that you're trying to carry out. So that's what I call web scraping framework, because it organizes your thinking in relation to all those areas. Now, why web scraping or sourcing data from the web is so important nowadays? Well, the data on the web, and by that we mean all kinds of things like videos, text, blog posts, tweets, other social media posts, right? They're measured in zettabytes, okay? To be honest, I got tired of updating that slide all the time because this data is growing exponential. When I put together that slide, it was like 1 zettabyte. Then I updated it like to 3 zettabytes, then to 5 zettabytes, then to 7 zettabytes, right? After that, the last time I've checked, I saw sources saying 16 zettabytes or even 90 zettabytes of data available on the web, okay? By the way, 1 zettabyte is a big number. We're talking about 1 with 21 zeros, as you can see right here. So it's 1 with 21 zeros, or 1 trillion gigabytes. So it's a really vast number, okay? So most of the data is unstructured or semi-structured qualitative data, not numbers, because when people think about data, they think about numbers, right? Something related to Excel tables, but it's not actually numbers. It's qualitative data in the form of web pages, emails, tweets, blog posts, and so forth. Also today, a lot of thinkers, they believe, and I think I already communicated that point, that data is the most strategic resource of the 21st century, okay? Just like some countries, some organizations, like Elon Musk organization, they're trying to get a hold of resources on other planets, right? There is also a degree of competition for resources in Arctic, because there is a belief that, well, it's actually not a belief, it's a fact that they have a lot of natural resources there, like oil and gas, plus mineral resources like gold and diamond, right? So there's that exploration race for the Arctic, like a lot of countries, including Canada, United States, Russia, Norway, they're trying to establish their presence there, right? So there's also that rush to mine, to harvest and mine, to claim ownership of that web data as well, because a lot of products, a lot of business models can be built on the top of that data. Just to give you one example, if you're interested in business opportunities, there are so many web products out there. All they do, they just get the data from the web, they analyze it, and they sell that result, something like that, right? For example, we have a company here, Computer Services Incorporated, CSI. They're headquartered in Paducah, and we used to make field trips every year there, but because of COVID, we didn't do it last year. But anyways, they're hiring a lot of our students, from all majors, computer science, computer information systems, cybersecurity, and they have a number of products, and most of those products are related to banking because they're doing this. In essence, they're like an outsourcing company for banks. Okay. Now, one of the services that they provide for banks is security clearance of transactions. So, for example, let's say somebody uses a credit card, and before that credit card is charged, they run that credit card, your name, against their databases to see whether you're a potential terrorist, whether you're on some kind of block list and things like that, right? Now, how do you think that service works? Well, they automatically scrape databases which are published for free on the web from such organizations as CIA and FBI. And what they do, they just match your name to the list of names of those wanted lists published by FBI, right? And that's one of their products to the bank. So that's something that you can build as well, right? You can scrape and update that database. It's not that complicated to do. So that's like one business model that I can talk about that I know for sure exists. So again, a lot of data, a lot of resources, and you can do a lot of wonderful things with those resources. Now, for me, I'm mostly doing things related to research. I'm trying to understand certain socio-technical processes, and I'm getting this data and I'm doing research with it. For example, one research project that I'm carried out is research on IT competencies. For that, I'm scraping data in relation to IT job ads online, for example, from dice.com, right? Because I want to see what are the most in-demand competencies for different IT roles, let's say systems analyst, business analyst, software developer, web developer, and so forth, okay? So that's what I'm doing with that data. So in the old days, data used to be very scarce. It was hard to collect. It was very, very expensive to collect. It took a lot of time to collect. Nowadays, it's all there on the web. All it takes for you is to kind of reach your hand, your robotic hand of your web crawler, web robot, and you can get any data that you want. By the way, this data is very valuable. Not only it's vast, it's very intricate. Now think about it. Whenever you do something online, you leave those fine traces, right? Those traces, they're very granular, they're very precise, right? Because, for example, if I ask you, what did you do, I don't know, 1 week ago, you can approximately tell me like, well, I was studying, I was watching TV. But if you do all those things through your browser, right? Like studying, watching TV, watching Netflix, then you can have very precise timestamps as to what you did, when, what you were watching, right? So this data is very valuable because it's very precise. Also, sometimes, despite what people think, I mean, of course, there's a lot of fake data on the web, like fake news, like fake social media posts, right? But there's also sometimes very truthful data on the web. For example, if you're using Google, right, then you're trusting Google your most intimate secret, something that you would not reveal, let's say, even to a doctor sometimes, or I don't know, a priest, right? So for example, God forbid, if you have a particular disease, the first thing you do, if you think you have a particular, if you're sick, right, the first thing you do what? You Google it, right? For example, I don't know, headache and pain in my knee, something like that. You know, what does this mean, right? So you Google it. So Google knows like all those intimate details about your health, about your life, right? So if you can go get a hold of the data, it will be very valuable for research purposes, for marketing companies, for academic researchers. Now, unfortunately, the data is there, but a lot of researchers, a lot of companies, they don't have the tools to get this data to the point where, you know, like revolutions, those shifts in economic paradigms, they leave a lot of people behind, right? So for example, when manufacturing was booming, a lot of countries, and that included the United States, they took advantage of the trend, they prospered from manufacturing, right? But then the economic trend changed from manufacturing towards what? So a lot of countries in the Western world, they shifted from manufacturing towards what? Is manufacturing now the dominant sector in the United States or not? What would you say? It's not, right? So what is the dominant sector? Well, they put it under services, right? So it's not manufacturing. Nowadays, everything is manufactured in China, unfortunately, right? Unfortunately for manufacturers, because a lot of people lost jobs because of that, right? And then countries like United States, most of their GDP comes from services, banking, education, healthcare, and things like that. Now there's a push. I think we're switching from services specifically to technology services, right? That's becoming the most dominant industry, right? Now, during those shifts, unfortunately, some people, some countries, some organizations are left behind, right? In the United States, they call it what? A Rust Belt. You know what I'm talking about? Rust Belt is like that whole area of Midwest that includes, you know, Michigan, you know, Indiana, maybe Kentucky to some extent too. So Rust Belt, they're basically talking about all those factories that are out of business. They're standing there and rusting, right? I don't know if you've been to Detroit or not, but you know, maybe don't go there, but just like you find some YouTube videos about how Detroit looks like, and some of those things are really, really scary, right? I still cannot imagine how can a worldwide center of manufacturing turn into such a urban desert, basically, right? So there's a lot of decay. Again, it's happening because of economic shifts, right? Chicago is also a victim to that, at least to some extent. So manufacturing went to Asia, everybody switched to service, and some companies got left behind, right? So my research is all about helping individuals, researchers, organizations not to be left behind, to learn how to harvest the data and how to utilize the data for their advantage, okay? So my research is largely about that. So again, I'm doing research on web scraping, and assignment 2 is largely about web scraping. So what is web scraping? By web scraping, we mean automated or technology-assisted collection and organization of data from the web, okay? So it's gathering and organizing data from the web using automated tools, information technology tools. I view web scraping process as a high-level process comprised of the following phases or steps. First of all, selecting a website. And by website, we mean pretty much anything on the web. It doesn't have to be a specific website. It can be an online database. It can be a collection of several websites, right? So maybe a better term is a web source. So as the first step, you select a web source. Number 2, you analyze that website or that web source. You analyze it from both technical standpoint, how data is used, what kind of markup languages are used, and also from conceptual standpoint, right? What kind of data is available, what kind of questions it can answer, will it serve my purposes or not? After that, you go ahead and retrieve raw data. So you write a script or you develop a tool that goes through your website and retrieves data that you need. And then you will tidy your data, which means you will clean it and you will put it in a highly structured, highly organized format, okay? The ultimate goal of assignment 2 is to produce tidy real estate data, okay? And then within each of those phases, you have a number of activities. But before we talk about some specific activities, I would like to point out that web scraping is the part of the so-called data science process. You've probably heard this term data science, everybody's talking about it. So this is my attempt to explain what data science is. I would say that data science starts with a research question about the world. For example, if you're working for a company, your research question can be, why are customers leaving us? Why they're canceling their subscription? So this is your question about the world, right? To answer this question, you collect relevant data. And again, oftentimes the data is collected from the web through web scraping. So if you're running an online business, then most likely to answer the question of why your customers are leaving, you'll collect the data from the web as well, okay? Once you collect the data through web scraping, you will come up with a tidy database, and that's one of the goals of assignment 2. You will have to create a tidy access database. We're just talking about like one table, not like a full-blown database. You'll create one table as a result of that. And once you have this tidy data, you can either build a data product. So a lot of companies do that. You know, they build some kind of data product, let's say about, I don't know, college admission data or student data, demographics data, and then they sell it to other people. Or if you're a researcher, you will explore this data, analyze, visualize, something that we'll do in this class a lot, and then come up with some kind of findings. And those findings, they will either help you in decision-making, or they will enrich a theory. If you're an academic researcher, they will enrich your understanding of the truth, how the world operates, how the world works. And of course, all of those steps are supported by technology. But we're gonna zoom in today on the web scraping process, meaning these four steps. Selecting a website, analyzing that website from a conceptual, from a data, technical standpoint, retrieving raw data, and tidying raw data. So we'll try to do those 4 steps today as a part of assignment 2. So I will skip those activities because it's a bit lengthy. I will just say that when it comes to technical skills, you know, web scraping is like a multidisciplinary endeavor. First of all, you need to have a general understanding of the web, like where things are, what kind of things are available. You also need to understand legal and ethical aspects of web scraping. Don't just go to a data and scrape something. By the way, I just gave an advice, free advice to somebody. This person is running, he's from Miami, right? And he approached me on LinkedIn to ask about legality web scraping. So what he was trying to do, he was trying to create some kind of aggregator for yachts. So for example, if you want to buy a yacht, you know, you go to his website and you see like all those yachts available in the United States, I guess, not just in Miami, right? Now to do that, you know what he was planning to do? He was planning to write a robot that would go to all those popular websites and just pull their data and aggregate it on his website, right? So he was kind of asking me like, is it legal? Is it ethical? What do I need to keep in mind, right? So based on my research, I gave him some advice, what to look for to make sure you're more on the legal or ethical side. Although, as you will read in my paper, it's really a gray area. Nobody knows for sure, you know, what the rules are, because a lot of the rules that apply to web scraping disputes, they're derived from those old laws that were developed back in 1980s, like, you know, or even before that. They were not even developed in relation to technology. Like there is one law that calls trespass to chattel, something like that. I'm not good in those legal terms. I guess it was developed like way back in relation to people who were trespassing somebody's property. Well, anyways, you need to understand legal and ethical frameworks surrounding web scraping. Also, when it comes to technical skills, you need to understand the overall web architecture, client, server, where the request is being sent, what you're receiving as a result. Main web technologies, you don't have to be an expert in all those web technologies like HTML, CSS, XML, or XBRL, which is an extension of XML for financial documents. But you need to know something about it, right? So JSON is also a popular data format. It's like a light version of XML. MySQL, a very popular database for storing data. So you need to have an understanding of those technologies. Also, sometimes you need to look at the website's APIs, because some websites, they actually have application programming interfaces that make it easier for you to work with their data. Also, most likely you will develop a custom tool using a programming language. The 2 most popular programming languages for harvesting data from the web are R and Python. Personally, I'm using R because I'm more into academic research, and R has all those statistical tools for academic research. But a lot of practitioners, they use Python because Python also has those web frameworks that you can use to build web applications based on the data that you receive. Although you can build web applications in R as well, there's a Shiny add-on to RStudio development environment that also allows you to create web-based products. Also, languages have web scraping libraries, like for example, RVest is the web scraping library in R. It contains all those functions for simulating browser sessions, for developing robots, for parsing data back and forth. Also, you need to know something about networking. Sometimes when I run those web robots, I get those networking errors. For example, it would be something like your IP address is banned or something like that. That happened to me once. I think the administrator, he thought that this is some kind of denial of service attack because I wrote a crawler that would query that website like several times per second. So they didn't like it and they banned my address. And then before I knew anything, they just they unbanned my IP address. I think what happened was they have some kind of security tool that by default bans all those suspicious IP addresses. And then maybe system administrator came, he kind of looked what was happening and he decided, well, that comes from Murray State University. It's not that similar to a denial of service attack. So they kind of unbanned my IP address. I was able to access it again. And then programming skills, right? You need to develop those scripts using a programming language. Also, when you store this data, you need to understand something about popular file formats such as Excel, JSON, CSV, which is comma separated values format. And sometimes when you clean data, knowledge of natural language processing or NLP tools come in handy. For example, you can use natural language processing in R to remove white spaces, to remove punctuation marks, to make the data more clean, to tidy it up, right? Without doing it manually. Now, fortunately, you don't need to be an expert in all those technologies because nowadays there are a lot of tools for automating, intelligent tools for automating web scraping. Some of them have a degree of customization built in. For example, Octoparse, I believe, it gives you ability to write scripts. Okay, so I believe you can fine tune the way the scraper operates by writing your own script, okay? Some tools are really visual, they're real point and click tools. You don't need to know any programming or understand any technical matters. One tool that I've been using for many years is called Import.io, and this is the tool that we will use for assignment 2. We will use Import.io hopefully to extract data from the web. And this is a point and click tool. You don't have to do any programming in relation to that. Unfortunately, because it's a point and click tool, sometimes it doesn't work and there's no way to customize it to make it work, right? And it's always hit and miss, like sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I tried this morning, it worked, okay? So hopefully it's gonna work today as well when we do this exercise in the lab, okay? This is the frustrating point about web tools, right? I guess the good part about web tools, they're always updated, right? They always update the interface and all those things. But the annoying part is that you never know how it's gonna work this time, right? I get very annoyed. I learn interface and then they change this interface again and I have to like, oh my God, where is it at, right? So whenever I take a break for a month or semester from a particular web tool, I come back and I cannot recognize what's happening there, right? So that's the downside of using web tools. Okay, so this is conceptual foundation. So again, feel free to read my web scraping paper if you would like to find out more about data sourcing. And now we'll start dealing with the technical aspects of web scraping as a part of assignment 2. What about you guys in Zoom? Any questions or comments so far?
No, I'm good.
Everything is good? Okay, so let's move to assignment 2, if you don't mind. So let's go back to our business intelligence module. And I think I'm still sharing, no, yeah, so I'm still sharing my screen, so it should be okay. And again, I apologize because we'll be using some web tools. Who knows? Maybe they will ban our IP address as we're doing it like as a lab, because sometimes they're suspicious if too many people are using this tool for accessing the same source. They may think we're practicing denial of service attack in this lab just manually. So this is assignment 2. You don't see it in your version of the class, but I have a last resort. If you absolutely get stuck, if you cannot get the data, I will give you this data. You'll just have to clean it, right? But I'm hoping everybody will get his or her own source of that data set, okay? Or copy of the data set. There is also a video tutorial for assignment 2. I will go ahead and enable it. Again, I'm sorry, I ran out of of patience, I don't want to re-record this video because everything changes each time we run this assignment, right? So if you want to go back to what we did, just use this video recording, right? Although here it also explains in principle what needs to be done, right? The reason I'm a bit skeptical about this video because things change. Like in this video, I might be saying Zillow because at that time Zillow was working. Now we're going to use Trulia, which is a different website, right? So that's why I'm kind of disabling it because maybe it will be misleading to you. Now, there's another resource that is required. It's not marked as optional. It's called Tidy Data. It's a part of this assignment. You will need to read about the Tidy Data concept. This is a paper published by Hedley Wickham, which is a well-known contributor to R language, and he's a chief data scientist at RStudio. That's the company that produces RStudio development environment used on the top of R-based language. So read about Tidy Data. Don't worry if you don't understand the whole thing. Maybe it's something that requires background in statistics or databases, and maybe you won't have that background. Just do your best to understand it. Just make sure you understand this overall concept of tidy data. What does it mean to have a tidy data set? Okay. By the way, this is another research area of mine. I have a paper in the works that develops a tidy data concept for qualitative data, because this concept of tidy data is largely about quantitative data. So read this paper prior to doing assignment 2, because there are some questions about this paper in the assignment. And overall, as I said, the ultimate goal of this assignment is to produce a tidy data set. But we'll open assignment 2 file right here. So here you'll put your section number. So if you're in this face-to-face section 01, if it's Zoom section, I believe it's section 20 or 2. What is that? Chinese, which section are you in?
2.
2. Okay, so yeah, that Zoom section is section 2. So this is the assignment. Imagine that you're an independent real estate agent operating in Paducah, Kentucky. I did this exercise for Murray because I have a better understanding of Murray real estate market. I'm a small scale amateur real estate investor, but I had to switch to Paducah. You know, there's something happening with real estate in Murray, and what's happening, there are not too many houses for sale in Murray. I think a lot of people are moving in Murray, or maybe nobody's moving anywhere, but I have this feeling that a lot of people are moving into Murray because I've noticed that a lot of those houses that were kind of standing idle, now they're all rented out, okay? And when I rented my house out, basically it took me 1 day to rent it out. I thought it was going to take me several months, but next day it was rented out, right? I mean, I could imagine something like that in San Francisco or Los Angeles, but not in Murray, right? But it's good for us. It looks like people are moving to Murray. Maybe they like the, I don't know, lifestyle here. Maybe they like the overall quality of living. So I remember when we did this exercise in the past, there were like around between 150 and 200 houses for sale in Murray area. Nowadays, it's only 70. Okay, there are not too many houses for sale. And because it's less than 100, it's not enough of a data set for us. So I decided to move to Paducah, right? To do this exercise for Paducah because they have almost 300 houses for sale nowadays. So imagine you're working in real estate in Paducah and you want to obtain a complete list of all real estate listings in Paducah, more specifically houses. So let's limit it to houses, right? So not just complete real estate, but single family homes, not apartments, not condos, not townhouses. So the first thing you need to do, you need to read the paper on tidy data by Hedley Wickham. I already gave you the link to this paper, right? So just read it, make sure you understand the tidy data principle. And all you need to do here, you need to list and discuss the 3 criteria for tidy data. So I'll give you a hint. I think there are 3 criteria in total. So just tell me what this criteria is and what it means. So maybe a bullet point list with each list having like, I don't know, 1, 2, 3 sentences, okay? So show me that you understand what the tidy data is. And then go to a website. So here I'm saying Trulia or Zillow, okay? Today I tried working with Trulia, it works. In the past it was the opposite. Trulia doesn't work, Zillow works because they keep changing it. Actually, a few months when I tried it, they were very angry about those crawlers. Actually, when I tried running it on Trulia and Zillow, both websites will tell me, you're a robot, go away. We don't want to see you here, something like that, right? Nowadays, they seem to be more friendly to robots, at least Trulia, okay? So So this is what I mean by that. This is the website that you need to go to. It's called trulia.com. And I will go there right now. I'll just enter it in my Chrome browser. So here you have all kinds of real estate data. Now let me make it clear once again. You know, a lot of people ask me like, so what exactly I mean by real estate? Because real estate can be different, right? You can have land parcels, you can have, I don't know, mobile homes, right? So let's narrow our definition. It's okay if you narrow the definition down to single family homes for sale, right? Doesn't matter if they're sold by owner or by agent, as long as it's a single family house, we should include it in our data set, okay? So if you type Paducah, Kentucky, and you're looking to buy a house, not rent, you'll get the following output together with a map. So here we have 377 homes available in Paducah area from Trulia, okay? Which is good for our purposes. To make it more precise, let's just do something like this. When you go to more, you see they allow you to select home type. So let's limit it to house, not condo, not townhome, not multifamily home, not land. And you save that search, something like that, right? Well, you don't have to save it, sorry. You just look for houses. So that narrows it down to 160 houses, which is okay. As long as we have a data set above 100, we should be okay with that, right? So approximately you need to get 160 houses. Now, obviously, the exact number will depend when you do it, right? Maybe it will change a little bit even today. There will be additional houses listed, right? But as long as you have this number, you should be okay. If you're telling me there are 1,000 houses in Paducah, I'll be skeptical about that, right? If you're telling me there are 30 houses in Paducah for sale, you know, if your data set has only 30 houses, I will also know that this is not right. You didn't do the job right, scraping job right. Now, the question is, how do you get all this data into tidy format? So let me show you. So that's step number 2. You need to import the data into an Excel sheet, and you need to clean it within an Excel sheet, okay? So the question, how do you do it? How do you import all the data into an Excel sheet? Well, one way to do it is to do it manually, right? So there are 160 listings, so you can go to each listing one by one, and you can copy all the data, okay? By the way, it doesn't sound too crazy. I mean, actually, some people did that. I don't know why, but I envy their patience. They did it manually. And I actually asked them how long it took them. They said, well, a few hours, something like that. So I guess you can do it in one day or a few hours, okay? Just scrape all the data manually. Now, of course, there's a faster way to do it. You know, instead of spending one full day, and I don't know how you feel like those tedious tasks, they really take a lot of energy out of me. I feel like my concentration, you know, this whole boring, tedious nature of this job makes me want to take a vacation, you know, after doing something like that, like a weekend vacation, get away, go to Chicago for a few days or something like that, right? So most people decide not to do it manually. They decide to do it automatically. Again, there are all kinds of web scraping tools available. I haven't tried all of them. So here's my list, right? I know Octoparse is a very famous tool. I've used it myself. I think I've used briefly Fminer and ParseHub. At least I tried them, right? But I don't have that much experience with all those other tools. The tool that we will use today is called Import.io. So hopefully it will work for our purposes. We'll be able to get all that data. So go to Import.io right now and keep that tab open with houses. So here's the tool. I think it's more like it's both like a tool and a consulting company. They want you to use this tool, but they also want you to utilize their services when it comes to harvesting data from the web. Okay, look, what you need to do, you need to go to their dashboard. And since I'm registered for this website, it already opens my dashboard. For you, I'll let you register for it. So when you click on the dashboard, it will ask you something like log in with Google or something like that. So why don't you do that? Why don't you create an account with Import.io? So let me show you, let me use another browser where I didn't log in to show you approximately how it will look like. So let's say I go to Import.io right here. And then when you click login, It says Google login. Go ahead. Oh, really? Wow. That's what I was afraid of. So there are no new accounts, huh? Did you try logging with Google or not? It doesn't work. Okay. Well, oh, sorry about that. That's the thing about using web tools. Like they always change their policies. Sometimes they don't work. Well, um, the good thing I already have this data set because I've had this account for a long time. So I'll just upload this data set for you. I'll just show you like in principle how it works. So I have those extractors right here. So basically you're building your own custom robots or your own custom tools to extract the data from the web. Okay. So I click new extractor and I just use standard extractor. So let me go back to our Trulia list. And what I will do first, I will just take this first page and I will extract whatever is available on this first page right here. So here we have a list of around 30 results. So I'll enter that URL right here. And this robot starts analyzing the websites to see what kind of data can be scraped from there. Okay, so it says, okay, I was able to extract the following data. So it has photos, it has some data points about those houses. So it was able to analyze automatically and organize the web page and also organize this data into a table like this. So I'll save this extractor and I will just call it demo. So this is my extractor. It's ready to extract. It doesn't contain any data. Now, before we extract, we go to settings, and what we can do, we can add additional pages. So this is what I've noticed when you use Trulia. When you go to second page, look what happens with the URL. It changes to the second page pointer, right? There's a parameter that points to the second page. We have a total of 6 pages, right? So when we go to page number 3, the parameter changes to 3p, which is page number 3, right? So this is how I found out the 6 URLs that I need to crawl at the same time. I'll just copy this one here, and I will add, so I will add one more URL. You can do it automatically. You just say like which parameter you want to manipulate, but to make sure we don't make any mistakes, I'll just add them manually. So this will be second page. This is fourth page. Fifth page and sixth page. Now, today I tried to put 1p here, and that will point me to page number 1. But you know what I've noticed? For some reason, it suspects I'm a robot when I do that, which is true, actually. I'm a robot, right? So I don't know. That it all comes down sometimes to those little glitches like that. So I'm not going to use 1p. Hopefully, it will work without that, okay? So those are the 6 URLs we're going to crawl, and I hit save. Okay, so now it's running. So I put run inputs. So now it's going to run. Hopefully, going to crawl all 6 pages. Okay, so it took 13 seconds to go through all those 6 pages. So let's download the data set. And you can download it either in JSON format, CSV, comma separated values, or Excel. I'll choose Excel. So I'll just save it here. It's called demo crawl. Something is happening with my Excel. That's not the first time. I don't know. So let's take a small break until it figures out. Okay, here it is. So this is the data set. This is the raw data set. Since I'm a nice guy, I'm not going to ask you to figure out a way to get it yourself, like using one of those tools. I'll just give it to you, right? Because it's not that sophisticated. Just it's a point-and-click interface. So I'll give you that data set, right? I'll do it right now. I'll just upload it in a second, okay? And it has 121 data points. I'll upload the one that I did in the morning. I think it has 160. It's a more complete data set, okay? So this is the kind of data set that you'll get, but as you can see, it's not clean, it's just raw data. So let me go ahead, I'll just pause for a minute and upload that Excel file so you can all open it in front of you, right? And we'll start cleaning it because that's also a part of the assignment. Yeah, I think the reason I got less than 160 was that the first page was not correctly specified. So something happened with the first page. That's my guess. So I'll give you like that full data set that I did this morning. 1 second. I'll upload it to our Canvas page. Okay, so I uploaded my data right here. It's called Trulia Data. It's an Excel sheet, so you should be able to open that file right now and have it in front of you. So please tell me if something is not working. So did you open that file? Okay, so it works.
I opened it. It works.
Okay, great. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, so as a next step, just as the assignment here says, you need to clean it, right? Let me give you some general suggestions for cleaning this data, and then some specific techniques that you can use to separate variables. Once again, look, it's not just about making it look nice. You need to clean it in a way where it corresponds to tidy data. If it's not tidy, again, read that paper, then I will deduct points from your assignment. Okay, so it's not just about making it look pretty. It's about tidying data in accordance with the tidy data principle. Okay, so let me give you one suggestion. You don't have to leave duplicates. If you have duplicated variables, you can delete one of them, right? But leave as much data as you can in the data set. Don't delete anything that would decrease the usefulness of this data set. Let me give you an example. I see that the address is mentioned twice, I believe. So here you have one address column, right? And here you have street address column right here. Okay, so this information duplicates, right? So this is something messy, right? So I'll leave it up to you to decide, because you see, maybe this is actually useful, because I'm not sure what it means exactly, but it looks like some of those houses are actually not in Paducah, but in Paducah area, something like that, right? So I'll let you decide on that yourself, like whether you want to extract some of that information and whether it's extractable or not. Because right now I cannot make sense of it on the fly. I need to analyze the data. It looks like some kind of trail of addresses, okay? But the street address is right here. Oh, actually you don't need it. Look, you have street address and then you have location, right? For each listing. So you don't need that column. So maybe you should delete that column altogether. I'm not sure what it represents. Okay. So delete redundant entries, but don't delete anything that would decrease the informational value of the data set. One specific technique that I would like to show you is how to separate variables. One of the tidy data principles is that you have one value per cell. Okay, don't have more than two values per variable, because it's a violation of the tidy data principle. Okay, let me give you an example of a cell or series or column where this principle might be violated. For example, this cell right here. Now, why is this a violation of this tidy data principle? How many values do you see here in the cell? Is it one value or several values? Well, I see at least two values. One is a house number and the other one is street name. You see, so that's a violation of tidy data principle, one value per cell. So in a way, we're trying to pack two variables in one column, which is a violation of one of the tidy data principles. It needs to be one column per variable, one value per cell, okay? So how do we separate those values? I'll show you quickly how to do this, and that should probably take care of all of your needs when it comes to separating those values in all of the columns. So I'll create another column. So look, I right click here on P and I select insert. So that's how I insert an additional column. Okay, did you do it? And I'll call this column street number or house number. That would be better. What's the better term? Street number or house number? House number, right? So let's call it house number. So what we need to do, we need to extract the house number from this column, okay? From each cell here. The functions that you need to use are three functions: left, right, and find. Left function can grab certain number of characters from the left of the string, meaning from this side. Right function can grab certain characters from the right side of the string, okay? and can find the first occurrence of a specific character in the string. What we'll be finding most of the time, we'll be finding empty space, because those variables are typically separated using empty space as a delimiter, something like that, okay? So what we're gonna do, we need to grab those numbers from the left. Now, we cannot just use something like this. So I'm using left function. I'm typing equals left. We cannot just say grab left characters from this string, a total of 3 strings. It will do it here. So look, we grabbed house number from the string by typing left 02 3, which means from this string grab 3 characters on the left. It kind of works here, but it's not going to work for the entire data set. Why? Yeah, not all numbers have 3 characters. Like, for example, this house number has 4 characters, right? So it's not going to work. So what we're going to do, we will make this formula a bit sophisticated. We're saying, okay, you'll be grabbing left values from this string. However, to specify how many characters, we'll use find function, okay? So we'll type instead of 3, find. And what are we going to find? We'll open parentheses. In this text, we find an empty character. So for empty character, we use double quotes with a space. Okay, so we'll find an empty character within the same string, and we'll close our parentheses. So basically, string numbers start from 1. So look, if we're talking about this Will lane, the empty space will be character in 1, 2, 3, 4th position. So we'll grab 4 characters to the left, okay? Now, we don't need to have 4 characters, right? We need to have 3. So in other words, we don't need to grab that empty space itself. So we'll subtract 1 from that, so that we don't include empty space. And we hit enter. So it worked, right? So using that formula, we grab 200. Now, what we can do, we can just copy this formula to other cells. And for that, look, I just point to this cell. I click to this corner. You see there's like a small green square, right? And then I click left mouse button and I just drag it down. So that allows us to grab all the numbers. So I just pointed here. I clicked on this square and I dragged it down. So this is how you copy formulas. Go ahead. Okay, the code is right here. It's O. So it's cell O2. So find the position of empty. So this is what the right side means, the second parameter argument. Find the position of the first empty space and subtract 1, because we don't need to grab the empty space itself. And that will tell us the number of characters we need to grab from the left side. So let me increase the size. So this is the formula. Did you all copy it? It works? Okay. So that's how we got the house number. What we also need to get from that variable, we also need to get the street name. So I'll insert another column and I'll call it street name. Okay. Now to get this street name, we need to use right function called right. Now grab characters from the right of that string. Okay. So I'll put equals right. So we're going to grab right characters from this cell, which is again O2. Okay. Now the question becomes, how many characters do we need to grab? Okay. In other words, how many characters do we grab from the right to make sure we grab exactly the street name? So that will be calculated using lang function. len, it's like a length function, so length of a string function. So how many characters do we need? We need length of this string minus length of this house number, right? Because we don't need to grab the house number again. So it's minus len of this value. So it's already P2. Now, if we do that, we'll grab that empty space right here to the left. So we need to deduct 1, I think, to eliminate empty spaces from those values. So when I hit enter, I get the right side of that address. So once again, this is the formula right here. It's also entered here in the formula viewer. So did it work? Okay, so once you clean your data set, once you have variable names, you have one value per cell, you should be able to proceed to other steps in the assignment. So here you need to answer the following questions based on your data set. What's the average mean and median price of a house in Paducah, right? So by average, I mean mean and median. Hint, there are mean and median functions in Excel. They're called mean and median, right? So you'll use those functions to calculate average price, and you'll answer your question here. What's the range of house prices in Paducah? Mathematically speaking, or the way statisticians define range is maximum value minus minimum value. Okay, so that's the strict definition. But I'm okay if you just tell me it ranges from this smallest value to this highest value. Okay. Now, the third question is kind of open-ended. What's the most expensive area of Paducah based on housing prices? What's the most expensive place to live? Okay. And then the next question, what's the least expensive? It's up to you how you answer this question, but make sure your answer is data-driven. It's not based on some kind of rumor. Okay. You know, sometimes people answer those questions based on rumors. Like, for example, they're saying, the most expensive area of Murray is near the lake. This is where all the rich people live. And I even saw, like my uncle told me that he saw Kid Rock living there, something like that, right? So it's kind of based on rumors, right? You've heard that Kid Rock lives somewhere in land between the lakes here or something like that. Actually, I know the truth. Kid Rock doesn't live in land between the lakes. He lives in Nashville. It's one of his houses, right? So he moved there from Los Angeles. And he bought like a big plot near Nashville, like 100 acres. I guess he's smart. He will resell it once land increases in value there. And he just has this, how do they call it, double shotgun house, like that mobile home there. That's about it. Well, anyways, don't base it on rumors, what I said, what somebody else said, base it on data. I'm gonna give you some ideas. Maybe you can do it by zip code. For example, my understanding is that in Paducah, there are 3 zip codes. So maybe you can divide houses into zip codes and then calculate average price by zip code, okay? Maybe you can do it by street name, right? What's the most expensive street? What's the least expensive street? So I'll leave it up to you to decide how to do this analysis. But make sure your answer is data-driven and not based on opinion or rumor, okay? So please explain your answer. So tell me how you arrived to this conclusion that this is the most expensive or this is the least expensive. And then just to get started, remember, a lot of the times tidy data is actually in the form of a database. To get started with Microsoft Access, you'll have to import your data, import your data into Microsoft Access file, okay? It's easy to do as long as your data set is clean. Like right now, you won't be able to import that data set into Access because it's too messy. It has those long strings, right? So it will give you errors. So let me show you like ultimately how it's gonna work. I created like a fake. So imagine like my data set is already tied. It's something like that. You have clear variable names, clear rows, right? I'm just giving you like an example of how it will work. So once you have a tidy data set, you should be able to import it into Access with a few clicks. So this is how it's done. I go to Access. So just create like a blank database, doesn't matter. Just call it assignment 2 database. So you'll create this data set, and then you need to get this data. So you go to External Data tab, and here you have option, New Data Source from File, right? So you go to External Data, New Data Source from File. And in our case, it's an Excel file, okay? So I'll find it. If you try to do it with your current Excel file, it's not gonna work because it's too messy. It will give some errors in Excel. But once it's tidy, you should be able to do that. So I'll go to my folder right here. So you'll select that file, you hit OK. Immediately, it will recognize that you have certain variables in the data set. So you'll put this line at the, so basically you're saying, this is how I subdivide it, right? You hit next. So it says, okay, what will be the field name? I'll call it street or house number. By the way, I don't leave spaces in column names in a database. I'll explain why later when we actually deal with databases. But for now, you can do anything you want. It's not a big deal. So data type is short text, which is fine. It doesn't have to be a number. And this field will be called street name. Next, it says, do you want to have a primary key? You can agree to that. And the name will be houses. Or house data, let's say houses. Okay, so here it is. And you can delete that original table because any Excel database starts with a blank table. Okay, table is open. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so this is what you need to do. You need to import your tidy data set into Access. And then as the final step, you will submit all three files. You will submit that Word file with your answers here. You'll submit your Excel sheet so you can see how you derive your calculations, and you'll submit your database file, okay? You'll put everything into a zip folder. You'll name that zip folder with your student ID, first, last name, section number, semester name, spring 2021, and you'll submit it in Canvas, okay? This assignment is due at the end of next week. So what will happen on Tuesday, we'll wrap up our business intelligence discussion. On Thursday, you'll be free to come to the lab to continue working or finalize your assignment, okay? So I'll be here to help you to finalize your assignment. You can also ask for my feedback prior to submission. You will show me what you've done. I'll give you maybe some suggestions for improvements, right? So I'm not trying to catch you off guard. If you want to work with me, if you want to solicit my help before you submit it, I'm willing to do that, right? You just need to show up physically, or you need to join us in Zoom because you'll be able to ask those questions in Zoom as well, okay? So that's it. That's assignment 2. I think we're good on time. It's 3:14. Let me take attendance really quick before we go. First, I'll do it in my face-to-face section. Clifton?
Here.
Okay, thank you. Braden? Nathan? Devontae?
Here.
Thank you. Aaron? Jessica? Hope? Sean?
Here.
Harrison? Tristan? Violet? Violet, are you here? Mason? Ahmed? Here. Okay, friends, thank you for joining us today. I'll see you on Tuesday. So let me now take attendance in my Zoom section. Wesley?
Here.
Aaron Haney?
Here.
Tucker is here. Chinese is here. Jacob?
Here.
Thank you. Caitlin? Caitlin? Not here. Jason Reynolds? Not here. Brendan. Not here. Brendan, are you here?
I'm here.
Okay. And Casey was here. Okay, thank you very much.
I'm
Thank
here.
you.
Yeah.
Zoom. I hope to see you in Zoom next Tuesday as well. Have a great weekend. Okay, Violet is here. Maybe I should change it. Maybe Violet is just having Zoom on.